Hi, I'm about to, um, some stuff came up. It keeps coming up. And years ago, I started writing stuff down about things that narcissistic personality disorder people have done to me, and I didn't catch it. Um, I am a survivor, so it's hard for me to catch stuff that were normalized and driven into me. Um, I started writing these down thinking that I would write a book, maybe publish it on Amazon at one point. But this has been going on for a while, I think around 2018. Um, and I haven't gotten down to rehash stuff and rewrite it and whatnot. So I think it's faster to put it on YouTube. And it's also free for you to listen to, and you don't have to buy a book, you don't have to sit down with a book. You can listen to this while having a coffee or knitting or whatnot. Some of them are stressful, but these are things that I need to get out there because people who haven't experienced narcissistic abuse, they might see somebody I get the wrong idea, the wrong picture. And of course, the narcissist is fabricating all this to make them look good and to make the survivor look bad. Um, but we're brainwashed, and I, if you do see these things, um, please take note. And if they need to be helped, they need help. It's not going to resolve on its own. I know it's easy to say that you care and do nothing, expecting somebody else to step in. But because many people are thinking that, people don't get the help that they need. Even if it is obvious that they do need help, they should get help. And again, as I say in past uploads and past posts, please, if you give them a website or a phone number, follow up with them. And if they don't help or they did something harmful, please listen to the person um, that you're trying to help. And if needed, call them, call the organization, call the social worker. Um, yeah, let, it's more and more needed that there's no integrity, there's no work ethic in these organizations because they can keep their jobs. It doesn't seem competitive. It's not like a sales job. So please follow up instead of assuming that they refuse to help because there are a lot of creepy people out there. In the nonprofit world, there are a lot of creepy social workers, doctors, teachers, nurses. Although I find usually nurses are more with it than doctors. Um, the first thing I wanted to talk about is I took dance class for just a little over a year when I was in elementary school. Uh, Another Asian girl down the block went to the school and said I should go. I really wanted to go. I I went. It was jazz dance. My mother didn't want to put me in acrobatics. I think it was called acrobatics, not gymnastics. She didn't want to put me in ballet. And so it wasn't me for a little while. Yeah, it was the 70s in Brooklyn. So they were, you know, up to a certain age, you wear a certain color leotard, certain color tights, certain color ballet shoes. We were wearing ballet shoes, elementary school jazz class. We weren't wearing jazz shoes. Um, so we went, and my mother follows me into the changing room in the back, and she told me never to let anyone see me change, see me naked. I was a child, and she'd tell me to hurry up, she'd rush me, she'd cover me from the other children. I think, I don't remember, maybe there was a time where she got used to it and she let me change. But actually, I, even if she didn't follow me into the changing room, I think I wasn't allowed to let other people see me change, other girls my age. And the teacher said, cut it out. He didn't come into the changing room once we got out. Cut it out, you're just kids. Um, but the summer between fifth and sixth grade, so it was fifth grade in Japan, I went to school in Japan just for a month and a half, because their summer vacations are much shorter, and or they were much shorter, and there's pool time in the summer. Elementary schools had outdoor pools, and we were to change. I don't remember if it was like boys change in a classroom and all the doors are closed and the windows are covered, and maybe girls change in a bathroom, the girls' designated bathroom. I don't remember exactly, but in Japan at that time in the 70s, there's a culture for boys to change together, for girls to change together. So it wasn't a cultural thing, but um, yeah, I was so manipulated that I didn't question. I wasn't allowed to question. As I have said in my earlier uploads, I was not allowed to have an opinion, a thought, a physical sensation like pain, because I was in pain all the time, and they didn't want. In retrospect, they didn't want the teachers or the school nurses to know what was hurting. I wasn't allowed to have a thought, only know the answers to questions. That's why I did well with vocabulary and sentence structure. I did really bad with more nuanced reading comprehension later on. And because I wasn't allowed to watch TV or didn't watch movies, didn't go back then it was movie theaters. There's no movies. So I had very little experience with witnessing emotion or expressing emotion, and I wasn't allowed to have any. No thoughts, no emotions, no opinions, no physical sensations. Um, so I didn't question my parents or anyone. Oh, wait, I thought it was a Japanese culture thing that I'm not allowed to change in front of other kids. And I know now it's all the bruises and these little things on my body that show abuse. Scratches and mostly bruises. Um, this is this is the reality I had. Um, so in the past, I've uploaded about how men I've been involved with try to get me hooked on drugs, use my money saying that they're looking for work, they need to borrow it and going to prostitutes or going to bars or going to restaurants. Um, I was that was that much mentally abused. And another one, I'm guessing in retrospect that my parents were swingers. I in the 70s and early 80s, people didn't say polyamory, open relationships. They were swinging clubs. And just being on Facebook and being on the in the Facebook group of the neighborhood I grew up in at that time, people were posting sometimes about swingers clubs back then, you know, and also now that I look back, the way my friends' parents dressed, or just the spirit of the air in the air, walking down the street, going to school. I think it was a very swinger, liberal. It's a very liberal neighborhood, and it's not it's gentrified, but it was known as a very liberal uh, part of Brooklyn. So I used to have to babysit my sister for long amounts of time. Of course, my parents grew up having babysitters. I guess they didn't want to pay money, or they didn't want to see how the house was, or they didn't want somebody older than me, but still a young person to talk to me. Because basically I was only supposed to talk to my parents and then talk in school, my answers. If the teacher asked me a question and to look smart, um, they didn't want to talk. But so I didn't have copies of the keys, so we weren't latchkey kids. But my mother would say something like, "There's an adult lunch party, only adults. We can't take you. Just stay for 2 hours and it'll be like 8 hours, 10 hours. They leave before noon and they come back like at night. At that time, I don't have, I don't know. I don't think it was like 2 in the morning, but it was late. Dark. I'm missing lunch and dinner. And sometimes they would just fight. And I remember one memory, and I think it was only once, it might have been more. My father was drunk in the kitchen, at the kitchen table drinking, and my sister was allowed to do whatever she wanted. My mother was at the table too, fighting, and he made me stand there in front of the table and listen to him yell at me that my mother's a prostitute, and then my mother will yell back. And this isn't like for a short time, like your mother's a prostitute. Okay, do whatever you want. No, I have to stand there for a while being told that my mother's a prostitute and my mother yelling and listening to them yell at each other. So I'm guessing that they were swingers, but they were the kind that get jealous. Um, couldn't hold it together. Yeah, I I think that's a very ugly way to express sexuality. I personally am not polyamorous. Um, I never done that kind. Never had an open relationship. Never went to a sex club or a sex party. But as you can imagine, from the sexual abuse I had, man, I was supposed to entertain and the summer between third and fourth grade, and in fifth grade, fourth and fifth. I I think I have an unusual um, lack of interest in sex for my generation. And, but yeah, so I'd have to babysit all day. And I've, you know, if you listen to my earlier posts, that's when I was calling the immigration office to report them because they didn't come home. I had all, but that's that's previous uploads, and that brings it to like I was like basically homeless at 15, and I was on my own at 16, and always being told that we're poor, too poor. Like they almost didn't want me to do the recital when I was in that dance school because I had to buy a costume, and maybe there was a fee. And the teacher really pushed for my parents to let me because he said that I was good at hearing rhythm or something. Like maybe it's just for to get money out of them. I don't know. But too poor, too poor to buy me clothes. But like there was like boxes and boxes of hand-me-downs that I wasn't allowed to wear. I had to rotate like two, three outfits. That's in other uploads too. So we're poor, you're poor, you're poor, right? And my sister, when she was in high school, her parents, yeah, it's like her parents, because my parents didn't parent me. So her parents were buying her clothes, like $400 leather jackets, um, makeup from MAC, vacations, and yeah, she's the golden child. And there's more about her in the other uploads, but once I asked, why did she get preferential treatment? And there are other times I asked, when I was an adult, and I think there's an upload about, well, when I was an adult, I asked, and she said that my mother, I think sometimes narcissists, like, they break their act, and she said that when I was a baby, I got attention, and she didn't treat my sister as bad because she didn't get as much attention. It's like I was the firstborn, what the fuck? But anyways, yeah, so she told me she was jealous of the attention I got when I was a baby, when I was born. But when I was a teenager, I mean, I wasn't like a teenager. I was like an adult. I was on my own. But I asked, why does my sister get so much? And my mother said when the 3 weeks that I was hospitalized in my second year of high school, just as I got into my second year of high school, I was hospitalized in a psychiatric adolescent ward, and then my sister had to wait at home alone while they went to the hospital. I never saw my parents in the hospital. Maybe they had to talk to them, but I refused to see my parents in the hospital. That's how abusive they were. Even if I was in a hospital, I didn't know better that with doctors and nurses and security people around that my parents couldn't beat me up. But so I don't know, but they didn't come every day to visit me. I doubt that they had to go every day to talk to a doctor or a psychiatrist or a social worker. So all the times that I had to my sister had to take care of her own self, and she was 10, so older than I was when I had to take care of her all day. And we weren't allowed, many of the times we weren't allowed to eat the food in the refrigerator without asking. You can't do anything without asking, or I wasn't. So all the times I was her age or younger, And it was like 8, 9, 10 hours that I had to be alone. Um, but my sister was coddled and things were bought for her, and her parents weren't poor when it came to her. It's because she had to be on her own when they went to the hospital because I was hospitalized. What a big fat lie. Um, I These are some things narcissists do. So if you're a gym teacher or a dance teacher or a swimming teacher or run a swimming program, anything where children need to be changed and they're not allowed to change in front of other children and it's not a religion thing, please, please press why. Press the teachers and maybe the kids. And if they say it's a religious thing, maybe ask what kind of religion. Because I know people use religion to cover up abuse too. Please ask. Please see if there are bruises all over the body that they're hiding. And also, if you see neighborhood kids, or if you're a teacher of any sort, if you're a student, or if your students' parents, because of sex or whatever, has a negative impact on the kid, kind of like being left alone without food, stuff like that. Um, please step in. I know Child Protective Services isn't perfect. I know the foster care system isn't perfect. But even if it's something that'll scare the parents into parenting, or scare the parents into having their children live with relatives, I ask you please, because the mental damage done to me, I took it into my early adulthood and also beyond. I've been in abusive relationships where I was exploited for my hard work, um, wanting to take care of the home because the home I was in until I was 15, fucking mess all the time, and I was often cleaning for them. There were times where like I clean the children's room, I shared with my sister, and my sister will just like start like shoving things off the shelves and throwing things on the floor just because she can. Because she was trained to know that um I was hated and she was loved. And doing something like that, yeah, nothing. She could not be touched. And me, I was getting beaten up all the time and yelled at and forced to do stuff. So please, if you see that kind of dynamic, step in. And if you can, check in with them, follow through with them, because the system sucks. But if the kid can be with a relative who can treat them better, or a situation, it's better. It's better than having your own parents screw their mind over and their bodies. Like I said, this kind of abuse carried me into my adulthood, and I have spinal injuries and I have a hip socket injuries from way back when that I was able to somewhat manage with my yoga practice and my dance career. I was very, very strong. So there's muscle where there was where right now there's there's issues. Um, let them have a better life, even if they can't have a perfect life. And I believe that it's the responsibility of a teacher. It's really the responsibility of anybody who has that kind of privilege or advantage. Because a child, they can't, they can't do anything. They don't know better. They're brainwashed. They can't walk away without your help. Please comment below what you think. Please comment below any organizations who actually help. And especially if you've helped a child, if you're in a caring industry or an education industry, and you helped a child, please write in your comments about that. Yes, I hope that child abuse ends, and I also hope that survivors are acknowledged and we're given opportunities. Yeah, I still am on disability and I can't find gainful work. I work 4 hours a week. I think it has to do with racism, but that's a different story. I will end now. Okay, have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.